We were just talking about a house for sale in La Jolla.
Did you see this?
Carol's speechless.
The Sandcastle Mansion that's listing for $108 million. The sand on the beach was imported.
From where?
Augusta National Golf Club.
Yeah.
You're on the beach in California, and you still got to bring in sand from Georgia?
The guy's like...
That doesn't seem very eco-friendly there.
No. Yeah. What did he say? It's the time to sell?
It's time to move on.
Time to move on.
Yeah.
And then he's moving on to his yacht. Anyway, okay.
As one does.
As one does. Hey, you talk about the markets. I'm kind of obsessed with yields moving up. And I feel like, again, people talking, about 5% now on the 10-year? Concerns about deficit. So, here we go, guys. Thinking about maybe higher rates, and maybe we won't get as many rate cuts from the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, perhaps that's why we're seeing some real estate stocks, some home builder stocks sliding a little bit as a result of these higher yields. And one area of weakness in the market today.
Yeah, and overall, just a sense of maybe, the rally that we've seen, which should continue, is going to start petering out. David Costin over at Goldman Sachs seeing 3% annual returns over the next 10 years as opposed to the 13% annual returns we've seen over the past decade.
But just back to that home building point, because I think that's a good one, where we talk about this idea of this rotation that we continue to see. And a lot of what we're seeing sold today is a lot of the stuff that people have been rotating in really over the last 5.5 weeks. So I don't know if people know something we don't, because Jay Powell hasn't spoken, unless I missed something. But unless he says otherwise, aren't we still getting those rate cuts?
I don't know. Feels like we're paring them back.
All right. Open Bank, Aspen Tech ringing the closing bells on the NASDAQ and NYSE as the Dow Jones Industrial Average closes out the day down about 0.8%. The S&P down 0.2%. The NASDAQ Composite and NASDAQ 100 holding on to modest gains on the day. But the big outperformance, if you will, that belongs to your small and mid-cap names. S&P 400 mid-caps down 1.2%. Dow Transport's down 1.2%. And the Russell 2000, Carol Massar, down 1.6%.
All right, going back to the big caps, the S&P 500, Romaine, and you are seeing, in terms of the breakdown here, forgive me, flipped around on a screen, you have 100...
You were still staring at that house, the Sandcastle.
He was actually looking at the boat. Yeah. He's got a yacht.
Moved on, yeah.
203 feet.
Okay.
Is this bigger than your boat, Carol Massar?
It's a bit. Mine would be a dinghy next to it. This S&P 500, 81 names to the upside, 419 to the downside. So, yeah, some pretty broad-based selling today, Scarlet.
Yeah, and we did see the indexes close, with a little bit of a tilt higher, meaning they paired some of their losses into the close. But still, when you look at the sector breakdown, very much in the red. Of course, the biggest sector in the S&P, the tech sector, is positive on the day. 0.9% gain, really powered by chip makers. But everything else is down, led by real estate investment trusts, then healthcare, and then financials.
All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers. Your top gainer in the S&P 500, guys, is Kenvue. That stock finishing off its highs, but still a gain of about 5.5%. Company rising the most in about 2 months. Activist investor Starboard Value. We've seen the activist investors out big time, I feel like, with a lot of companies.
So how do we unlock value in this?
What?
How do we unlock value?
You mean further?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, because that's what all the activists are doing here. What's the value to be unlocked here?
I don't know.
You combine it with J&J?
Strategic alternatives.
Thank you, Tim Stenovec.
All the investment bankers around here. It was spun out of J&J already, right? I don't know. So this is according to a person familiar. We don't know the stake. They say it's sizable. I guess you have to stay tuned on this, but nonetheless, investors taking note. And we'll see what more you do, right? So we'll take a look at that one. Spirit Airlines, that one is an outperformer in a big way. The stock up about 53%. This is after the carrier secured more time to address a troublesome debt load that has raised the prospect of bankruptcy. So they reached an agreement with the U.S. Bank National Association to extend a deadline by which the airline must extend or refinance its 2025 bonds to maintain its credit card processing agreement with the bank. So there you have it. But investors moving big time into that one. And NVIDIA, you saw that top gainer in the NASDAQ 100, a top gainer too in the S&P today, guys, up more than 4%. So finishing pretty much at its highs. I'm pretty sure, is that a new record again? Because we've seen this one hitting, it feels like record after record. So just a standout performer. In today's session. Yeah, looks like it's at another record close.
All right, Carol's got the gainers. I got the decliners. I do want to start with shares of UPS, down 3.4% today. The company got a rare sell recommendation. Barclays expressed concern on UPS's earnings ahead of those third quarter results, which we get later this week. Brandon Oglensky downgraded UPS to underweight from equal rate, noting likely near-term risk to earnings from continued weakness in demand, and then longer-term challenges from, yeah, you got it, Amazon doing more of its own delivery, and also from competitor FedEx. Also, Lumen Technology shares surged earlier in the session. They were higher by more than 15% early this morning. The company came out and said that it was partnering with Meta Platforms to increase the network capacity for Meta, all ahead of AI development for Meta Platforms. Later in the session, those shares reversed. Analysts said, hey, this was already priced into this stock. You had Raymond James writing that it's, quote, unclear if there's anything incremental in this announcement from what we previously knew was coming to Lumen. Shares falling at the end of the day.
That was kind of a wet blanket. Yeah, I kind of lost track of the stock. Last time I checked, it was up like 10, 12% here.
It hit 15%.
And it closed in the red, all because of the analyst.
I guess it wasn't priced.
Power.
It wasn't totally priced in.
Some people didn't think it was priced in.
I know. Yeah. VF Corp, parent company of Vans, North Face, Timberland, Dickies, and more, down 7.2% today. JP Morgan placing it on the negative catalyst watch ahead of the company's earnings report. Those are coming on October 28th.
All right, let's take a look at yields. You had massive moves in that space today with your 5-year Treasury up about 10 basis points, your 10 and 20-year up about 11 basis points, and even your 30-year yield also rising about 11 basis points here on the day, 7 basis to 8 basis points on the shorter end of the curve. And you put it all together here, these are some of the biggest moves that we've seen in a few months here. In fact, it matches some of the big moves that we saw at the start of the month when people really started to rethink whether we were going to get as many rate cuts had been priced in. It now seems people are thinking about the exact opposite here. Not so much rate cuts, but the idea that, well, we could be in for a pause and maybe a lengthy one.
Yeah, we just had a story crossing. Apollo's Torsten Slok sees rising chances the Fed will hold rates in November, which would be kind of interesting, right? That's a few days after the elections. Hey, you know what's kind of interesting, guys? I feel like, we came off the pandemic and everybody was like, yeah, we're going to be flexible about how you work at home, work in the office. Increasingly.
Really? I never heard that.
That's because we came back into the office, like July, August of 2020?
Or never left.
It's a little different.
I was here like early June.
Well, anyway, a lot of companies allowed their workers to stay. A lot of companies allowed their workers to stay home, but 3M now is calling back basically its bosses for 3 days. So they're dialing back a remote-friendly policy. Yeah, and they've got a new head at the company who the previous ones seemed to be like, okay, we can be kind of flexible.
Yeah, 3 years they were able to. If you worked at a desk, you could work remotely. It was called the policy was called "Work Your Way," but now they're going to be required to work the way that Bill Brown.
As soon as the policy has a name, that's when you know you're in trouble.
Well, you can no longer work your way. You got to work Bill Brown's way. He took the reins back in May after that turbulent period of sluggish growth and legal setbacks. It's all fine until a company starts to not do so well. And then,
or the economy turns and everyone's like, you know what, let's get them all back in.
And we should point out that 3M does report tomorrow on that front, so maybe we'll find out how well or not well they're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that means fewer trips, fewer of those work vacation trips. Remember how those have become a big thing? There's an airport in New Zealand that is tired of cars clogging up its drop-off zone. Like if you go to JFK or LaGuardia here, it's like 3 cars deep. You can't even get in to drop off someone or pick someone up. Now they're limiting farewell hugs to 3 minutes at its drop-off zone.
Wow, what a place to live. The Uber driver never gives me a hug when I get dropped off.
You don't have loved ones to drop you off?
A 3-minute cap on hugs?
Yeah. I mean, it's meant to be a friendly reminder to please use the car park if you actually need to do more than, say goodbye. But otherwise, we want you to keep moving.
What exactly would they do more of, Scarlet Fu?
I'm not going to answer that.
I think this is just something unique about New York City, I think. Because if you are in a committed and loving relationship, you do not want your partner to have to go through dropping you off at the airport.
That's a good point.
It's a gift to them not to have to drive you to the airport.
I love you so much that I'm going to take myself to the airport.
Yes. And then you're just looking for a hug from the Uber driver.
What is it? It's just kind of rough.
Can someone give Tim some love here? What's happening?
Tim has thought through all of this very carefully.
What's your Uber rating, by the way?
It's weird. I'm banned. I don't know why.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it the closing bell, and we will see you again, same time, same place, tomorrow.